Welcome back to Yield Today with Dallin Candland. I'm here with Stu Draper. He's the CEO of Stukent, a company that I did an internship with, and I've just learned a ton from him, just his leadership and his example, and excited to talk with him about Stukent and his life and what's going on. So thanks for coming on, Stu.
Dallin, it's so good to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's kind of jump into what helps you on a day-to-day basis at this point, like to stay sharp. Like I know there's ProfCon coming up in June and there's all these simulations. How do we keep this pace of Stu going and growing?
The pace of Stu going and growing. How do I stay up? Good question. I think for me, what matters most is that I'm doing what I feel like I'm meant to do here on this earth. I think everyone feels like they have a life calling or mission, things that they're supposed to do. And I wake up every day going, here I go, doing what I'm supposed to do again. And that keeps me going, feeling like it's the right things for me personally. And
That's
as far as
good.
how I stay up with that, like I try to start my day with staying grounded with what matters most to me. I put God first in my life, so I take some time for meditation, prayer, scripture study, those kinds of things in the morning before I do everything else. And sometimes I don't have very much time for that, but I make some time for it. And then I also, while I take time for my health and I'll go on a run or lift weights. And while I'm doing that, I don't listen to rock that might pump me up. I'll listen to an audiobook. Right now I'm listening to the book Playing to Win. And that helps me a lot too.
That's good. Yeah. It makes me think, so with your morning routine, how is that like kind of changed over time? And does it start like at the same time, like super consistently, or is it like I just need to get on my run by like 8 o'clock and does it matter a ton when I wake up or?
What I try to do is get about 6 hours. If I can get a little more than 6 hours, I'll take it. But usually, I love how when you set your alarm on your smartphone, it tells you that's 6 hours and 30 minutes from right now, right? And so I don't worry so much about if I went to bed at 10:30 or 11 or 11:30. I try to set my alarm to give me at least the 6 hours. If I can get six and a half, great. But I and then I am obviously conscious of like when I got to do work, when I have my first meeting, so I can give buy myself enough time in there. So that's how I go about it. That's what's worked for me.
That's yeah, that's interesting. It's cool to me because there's some things that we're not able to like do for another person. Like we can outsource programming, we can outsource writing, we can outsource all these things, but then there's other things we can't outsource. Like exercise is one of them, sleep is another one, eating is another one. So yeah, that's interesting to me. I'm not sure if you can hear my parents' crazy dogs.
Just a slight sound of panting. Nothing bad. You're fine.
Yeah. So I wanted to go to this quote that I found from you on LinkedIn because I'll just say it like you've some bar none like fantastic content on LinkedIn. I've been following you since before I even started working at Stukent. Just been inspired. You're definitely somebody I look forward to your stuff in my feed. There's something you were talking about this job you had where you were I think it was you were a used car salesman. You still had like your tag and I sort of think of my time at Deseret Industries as like my thing of that, whereas it just taught me a lot about myself and it wasn't like a glamorous job. But I wanted to go to this quote. And it has to do with you with your wife and how she supported you. It says, "One of my greatest motivators has always been trying to prove to her that she didn't make a big mistake choosing me and sticking with me. I'm still working to show her." So oh, and then it says like love's a great motivator. So like I guess elaborate a little bit on that. Like how's love like pushed you and helped you just in your life?
Sometimes for ourselves, we don't expect very much. We're okay with a lot of it is what it is. I'm not too I'm okay where I am kind of a feeling that can come over us when it's just for us. When there's a bigger cause, we're more motivated. And when other people rely on you, it motivates you. For me personally, like having my, having Lindsay commit to marrying me was a commitment for me to be there for her. And having our first child was like a new level of drive and motivation to go uh, and be the best I could be for them, and to provide well for my kids. Right. So, uh, love for me is a great motivator. It's something that I think we should all be seeking in our lives, and the best way to seek it and have it in your life is to give it. Love can be very much a reciprocating thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this podcast started with this acronym I came up with for the word yield, and it's yes, I envision love demonstrated. So it's like we want to envision love in our lives because I believe God always sees our lives with love and sees loving things happening, and he wants loving things to happen. He sees the potential, he sees what's possible. So I love that answer, Stu.
I envision love demonstrated. That's cool.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you.
I think you can't show love with. I mean, it's hard to for people to feel love from you if you don't demonstrate it. Right? It's in your actions.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough, and we all receive love differently too. I learned this on my mission trip. There's this, really good missionary that I would shower with like compliments and stuff. He's like, I know you mean those things, but honestly, none of that like hits me. It's sort of like they like hit, but they don't like actually stick anywhere. And so for him, like quality time was something when I listened to him like talk about his like these elaborate like dungeons that he like created in his mind, and he'd talk with me about them and he'd have me like go through them. That made him feel more loved than anything. And so I think that's a big part of it, is that we're able to recognize how that person feels that love and be able to give that. That's a real part of love. So let's go into with starting Stukent a little bit. So it started in like 2013, but there's a lot of things that kind of led up to it. There's Get Found First, there's Candland. Just kind of bring us back to, what ultimately led to Stukent.
Yeah, I would say what really ultimately led to Stukent was uh, in high school working for my brother-in-law that was a plumber and owned his own business, because that's what first gave me a drive to becoming my own man, my own boss, an entrepreneur someday. And then BYU, I took entrepreneurship classes, loved them, loved learning from other entrepreneurs that came in as guest speakers. That helped. Um, my first job out of college was for a founder that had a funded startup. I got laid off from that job, but getting to watch him build and grow, that helped me get to where I am today with Stukent. Uh, Getting laid off, I was also at night, I was moonlighting for my brother-in-law doing his Google ads. He had 3 record-breaking months of new patients. And so when I got laid off, rather than look for another job, I could just go look for other dentists that would let me do their Google ads. And I got into entrepreneurship so young. I was like 6 months out of college. And then in finding ways as a bootstrapped entrepreneur to pay the bills and make everything work, I couldn't afford a lot of experienced talent. So I was training talent fresh out of BYUI. Well, that led to Kent Lundeen at BYUI asking me to come and teach digital marketing, because he's like, hey, you're hiring my students. I come to you with questions about digital marketing. You come guest lecture for my class. Can you just teach my class for a semester while I go to BYU Hawaii? And so when I was teaching at BYU Hawaii, I had the aha moment. It's like the true beginning sparks of what became Stukent. The genesis of Stukent is that I was disappointed by the curriculum that I had to work with, and I knew there had to be a better way, and if there wasn't one yet, I could create it.
That's
Because
beautiful.
I had already started one business, I knew what it took to run a business. And yeah, so that's the beginning. That's how it all started. I had another aha moment right about that time. I brought my idea up to my mentor, Corey Smith, and I said, Corey, I've got an idea. I want to write a textbook for digital marketing. If I can find 100 students at 100 schools that'll pay me $100, 100 times 100 times 100. That's $1 million opportunity, Corey. And he's like, oh, that's a cool idea. You're rich on paper already, Stu, but think about it some more, do some market research. And then we talked to 100 business schools. 40% of them still weren't teaching digital marketing. The 60% that were very dissatisfied by the way they were teaching it. And that's when we really knew we were onto something. And I knew that it would take some funding to make it all happen.
That's cool. Yeah, and I went through the social media marketing sim for my class at BYUI, and it just does get you to sort of take that extra leap over like the textbooks and over the other stuff. It's like, okay, now I'm actually playing around with some of this stuff. Now I'm scheduling posts. Now I'm doing this other stuff, and it does get you to think differently, which that is something that college helped me a lot with, was being able to, think a little bit differently. I think professional sales was another big class for me. It was like, is your conversation interest based or is it positional? Because if it's positional, we're probably not going to be able to go anywhere. But if it's interest based, now we can make the pie bigger. We can have more people in it. It can just be a whole lot better. So I'm thankful for the sims that you guys are making, and they're getting better too.
Yeah, we actually renamed our Sims Simternships, and with the concept being that a student can only get 1 or 2 internships throughout their entire college career, but they take classes where they gain skills and knowledge that they could apply in a lot of other internships for a lot of other businesses. Since the time does not allow that, the money does not allow for that, we provide a simulated internship where they can go and put the knowledge they're gaining to work right away. It's one thing to teach a student how to ride a bike by telling them how to ride a bike, and another to give them a bike and say, okay, now you got to get on and pedal and try. And it's amazing, you know the saying, it's like riding a bike. They say that because once you've done it, you don't forget. Your muscle memory is there, right? Well, in business school, if you only learn it via text or lecture, it's not going to stick for 7 to 10 years down the road when the material matters for your job. Because another problem we have is we often don't teach the entry-level skills we need to be teaching, right? So this gives students the entry-level skills they need to be able to apply on day one. If it gives them skills for later down the road, they're going to be able to apply those. And so that's what we're doing with Simternships.
That's beautiful, yeah, and it is working really well. I think you guys are almost serving 1 million students worldwide, and that is quite an accomplishment. That's pretty amazing to see that and to see like the stories. And one thing that inspires me, I got to go to the Idaho Falls location a couple times, and seeing on that wall you have like, this was our goal for this year, and then you see like exactly how close you got, and like I think you guys crushed like all the goals you set, but like break down a tiny bit for us like goal setting, and if somebody wants to like improve their vision for themselves, like with their life, I guess.
One of the greatest things that we do in America is we teach kids you can be anything you want to be, right? And then one of the saddest things we do in America is we put so much emphasis on an annual goal, a New Year's resolution. And it's all about either you did it or you failed and you're one of those people that just can't reach goals. The fact is, goals should be set all the time. And when we set goals, we should be less concerned about reaching the goal and more concerned about our progress. It's not so much about crushing the goal every year. We've had our years now where we didn't crush goal. We set a big goal, didn't reach it, but we were always grateful that we had a big goal, because it pushed us to get as far as we possibly could with the resources and circumstances that we were dealt, right? Darn it, we didn't hit 10 million this year, but we wouldn't have hit 8 if it weren't for the fact that we were pushing for 10. We probably would have landed at 7. So is it bad that we missed 10? No, it's great that we hit 8 and didn't settle for only 7 had we not had a goal at all.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I look at it. And I've kind of bounced around different ways of looking at it. And there's like one semester where I kind of just sort of didn't let myself, I don't even know, I just sort of let myself get in that funk a little bit. And it really does help to remind yourself of like things that you have accomplished, but at the same time, also remember that there's new people that could be put into your life. There's new money we could put into our life. Like there's a lot of money in the world, you know, and all those things can completely change our perspective. But I think having that vision and committing, yeah, I think you said it super well, Stu. Yeah. So how about what advice would you give for anybody that's sort of in my position? Like maybe I think we talked a little bit about this before, but maybe is finishing up college. I guess I'm not in that boat anymore. But anybody that's like kind of taking those first steps into the real world, so to speak, and then how can people get in touch with you and learn more from your stuff in Stukent?
If I had one last piece of advice for someone recently graduating, uh, it would be to study the book Smart Cuts because of the lessons you can learn about how to more quickly get more out of your life and your career than you would otherwise. The book does not teach shortcuts and ways to fake it till you make it. It teaches you it gives you example of after example of successful people and the things they did young in their career that allowed them to have more success younger. Um, I think that there's a lot of great lessons from Shane Snow's book Smart Cuts. So if I were to, and this is not a sponsored ad here. That's a great recommendation I'd have and something I'd share with anyone. And then if I give one more down, I'd say go to lunch. Ask as many successful people that are in the kind of seats you want to be in 5 to 10 years from now if they're willing to go to lunch with you and let them tell their story and just ask them a lot of questions. You can learn so much from them, and along the way they'll say, hey, I bet I can help you with X, Y, or Z thing that you're working on, and they'll be anxious to. As far as getting in touch with me, I'm on LinkedIn, Stuart Draper on LinkedIn, Stuart. I would love to connect with you there. And if you want to check out our website as a business, stukent.com.
That's good stuff. Yeah, I think yeah, just having some tiny little thing you can commit to. Like if you say like, "Hey, I want to go out to lunch and meet one new person every week or something." And then it's like if you're feeling like a bum one day, it's like, "Okay, I can feel like a bum today." It's like, "But I'm going to at least do this once a week." And then you can get better. You know, I started running again back in September, and now I'm finally like in a flow where it's like, "Okay, well, it feels weird if I don't run." So now I'm running almost every day now besides Sunday. But it's cool. It just kind of ramps up and changes, and I just yeah, just say, hey, anybody who wants to learn more about this stuff, learn from Stu because you get some good gold from him on his LinkedIn. So, but yeah, thank you so much for coming on, Stu, and I will check Smart Cuts out. If we do this again, I will have read it before we talk again. So, thank you so
Cool.
much.
Yeah, you need to listen to it. It's a great one. Thanks so much for having me, Dallin. You're a good man.
I appreciate it. Back at you, Stu. Thank you so much.
Right.
All right, and hopefully it went through.